That's where growth begins, right at the edge of comfort. Which leads me to lesson two: connection begins where comparison ends. How many of you have ever tried to pattern your brand or business after one you admire or aspire to be? Hmm? Well, a lot of times we think that their success is the roadmap we need to follow. It's a common move. You're not alone. You're not alone. And while plugging in someone else's formula can feel like an easy button, too often we lose our own voice, our own uniqueness in the process. And I found that a lot of times we don't always follow someone else's path because it's the best strategy or smartest move. No, we do it because we want to feel like we fit, like we belong somewhere. And that is true. That's human. But here's what's also true: you don't find real belonging by blending in, you find it by being honest about who you are and letting that be enough. Show of hands. How many of you have ever felt like no matter how hard you try to do it right in your business, something about it just wasn't quite right? Uh huh. Like maybe you were playing brand dress up with someone else's style and you realized you were rockin' plaid when you're clearly a polka dot person. Yeah. For years, I believe I had to be more outgoing, more polished, more like everybody else in my field to be taken seriously until I learned that, hey, what sets you apart is exactly what draws the right people in. And as a digital marketing and branding strategist, my greatest strengths come from the very things that I used to be ashamed of. I used to hide, like being deeply reflective, observant, and intuitive. Now I see the patterns others miss. I listen between the lines and I can sense what someone's trying to say, even when they haven't quite found the words. And in my field, that's everything. It's why so many of my clients come to me saying, well, I've worked with other strategists before, but they never really got me. You see, they're not just looking for visuals, they're looking for someone who sees them clearly and knows how to translate their voice, values, and vision online. Here's what Andrea said, one of my clients. She said, Kara spent a lot of time working with me one on one, asking in depth questions to understand me and my business. She created a brand strategy, set me up with a brand photographer, and designed a unique website that communicates who I am and distinguishes me from my competition. My new website not only looks great and is something I'm proud of, but it works to bring in specifically targeted customers who are our perfect match for the services I offer. You know what? That is what connection looks like when comparison ends. A brand that reflects who you really are and draws in exactly who you're meant to serve. You know what? The most successful brands don't blend in, they carve their own lane. For example, Cirque du Soleil, they didn't try to outdo traditional circuses. No, they redefined the experience completely. They took out the animals, no, they had no rings, there were no clown cars, and instead, they blended theater, music, acrobats, and storytelling to create something entirely original. And in doing so, they attracted a completely different audience. Not families with toddlers, but adults, professionals, art lovers. That is the power of carving your own lane. When you stop chasing what everyone else is doing and lean into what makes you different, your audience doesn't just find you, they see you. You know what? You have that same potential. And here's the thing: a brand built with intention doesn't just get noticed, it gets results. And it starts with clarity. Clarity is when your message and visuals align to express who you are and help your audience feel seen. Clarity cuts through the noise and resonates with their needs, their values, their identity. Then you mix in a little consistency. That means showing up with the same message, tone, and presence across every platform again and again, so your audience knows exactly who you are and why you matter. The end result? Connection. And I'm not talking about just clicks or likes, but real resonance, trust, loyalty, momentum. This isn't fluff. This is how you get seen, get chosen, and make the impact you were here to make. Because when your brand reflects the real you, your audience doesn't just notice, they respond. And when we stop comparing ourselves and start owning who we are, that's when true connection happens. That's when the right clients see us, hear us, and want to work with us. Where have you been following someone else's pattern instead of trusting your own voice, your own story, and your own strengths? Huh? Thank you. What if your superpower has been hiding in plain sight, dressed in polka dots, just waiting for the right strategy to bring it into the spotlight?